The heat was choking. Eva could barely breathe through the gag tied around her mouth. Her wrists were raw and bleeding, arms pulled tight behind her back. Every bump of the wagon sent pain shooting through her shoulders. The canvas roof trapped the late morning sun. Sweat soaked her dress and spine, mixing with dust, blood, and fear. Beside her, Mira slumped against the wooden wall. Her lips were split, her eyes dull, her chest rising in shallow breaths. 3 men rode ahead of the wagon, shouting back now and then. One laughed and said they'd reach the border by nightfall. Another bragged about how much they'd get for fresh stock. Eva wanted to scream, to run, but she could only sit there, tied, bound, waiting. When the heat grew too much, they stopped under a few trees. The youngest man, maybe 30, jumped down and walked to the back. His boots crushed dry grass as he climbed up. He grabbed Mira by the chin and said, "She's fading. We should check if she's still worth it before we cross." His hand went for her dress. Eva's heart pounded. She forced out broken words through the gag. "Wait, taking it off." The man turned, surprised. Her voice shook, but she met his eyes. "You don't have to hurt us. We'll do what you say. Just let us go after." He laughed. "You think I want it? You're not for me. You're for the buyer." He jumped down and walked off, still laughing. That night, while the men passed whiskey around the fire, Eva didn't sleep. Neither did Mira. Eva twisted her wrist, working a dull wire shard hidden in her sleeve. It wasn't sharp, but it was all she had. The ropes cut deeper into her skin. Blood ran down her arms, but she stayed quiet. Hours passed. The men argued, then fell into drunken sleep. Finally, one wrist came loose. Eva freed the other, then cut through Mira's ropes with shaking hands. By the time both were free, the fire was dying low. Eva grabbed Mira's hand, and they slipped into the dark. Branches scraped their legs. Thorns tore what was left of their dresses, but they didn't stop. They ran barefoot through brush and dirt, bleeding and scared. Every sound felt like a gun cocking. They didn't speak, there was nothing left to say. When dawn came, they reached flat dry land. The trees thinned out. The air burned. They collapsed beside a fallen log, gasping. A shape moved in the distance, a man. Tall, weathered, a rope over one shoulder, a wide hat shading his face. He carried a metal bucket that caught the light. He stopped when he saw them. No words, no smile, just a long stare. Was he a rancher, a traveler, or another danger waiting to happen? He stood still for a moment, then stepped forward slowly. His boots crunched the dry grass. He stopped 10 feet away. "You girls hurt?" His voice was low, rough, but not cruel. Eva sat up, her throat dry. "We just need water." He nodded. "I got some in the bucket. Not cold, but it'll do." He crouched and set it between them. Mira reached first, hands trembling. One sip, and she broke down crying. The man didn't stare. He just stood back up. "You running from someone?" Eva stayed quiet. Mira spoke. "3 men. They lied to us. Said there was work. Then they tied us up." His jaw tightened. He looked toward the woods, then back. "You girls alone now?" "We think so." Then came the sound of hoofbeats. A rider burst from the trees, pulling hard on the reins. Dust flew. The man's shirt was half open, his face red with rage. His eyes locked on the stranger with the bucket. "You got something of mine." The cowboy didn't flinch. "Don't reckon I do." The rider jumped down, pulling a revolver. "Back off. Those 2 belong to me." The words cut like a knife. Mira gasped. Eva reached for a rock. The cowboy moved faster. He drew his pistol and fired. The shot echoed across the plain. The rider screamed, fell to one knee, blood soaking his shoulder. The cowboy walked forward, calm as stone. No one owns anybody out here. He picked up the dropped gun, emptied it, and threw it aside. Tell your friends, if they come for these girls, they answer to me. The man crawled back to his horse, clutching his arm, and rode off. The cowboy turned back. Name's Thomas. My ranch ain't far. You can rest there, figure out your next move. Eva and Mira followed him. He had just saved them, but they didn't yet know what kind of man he truly was. Thomas's ranch sat at the edge of a dusty ridge. One wooden house, a small barn, and a windmill that groaned in the wind. It wasn't much, but to the girls, it looked like heaven. He led them inside. The air smelled of wood, leather, and dust. No one's been here but me for a while, he said, setting his rifle by the wall. Make yourselves at home, whatever that means. He handed them 2 shirts from a peg by the door. They'll be big on you, but they're clean. Eva held hers like treasure. Mira went to change, and when they came back, both smiled a little. Thomas poured water into a tin cup, passed it to them, then sat at the table. You girls got names? Eva, she said softly. This is Mira. He nodded. Thomas Granger. Folks used to call me Granger. Not many folks left now. He didn't ask more. Didn't pry. Just started slicing dried meat. You're safe here until you decide what's next. That evening, they sat on the porch watching the sun fall behind the hills. Mira tucked her legs under her. Eva hugged her borrowed shirt. Thomas lit a cigarette. After a while, he said, used to have a wife. She didn't much like ranch life. Said the silence was too loud. She left. Eva asked quietly. He shook his head. No. She got sick. Took the baby with her. 10 years ago. No one spoke after that. Only the sound of crickets. Before turning in, Thomas laid blankets in the spare room. Door locks from the inside, he said, placing a wooden wedge by the frame. Might help you sleep. Eva wanted to thank him, but the words stuck. Thomas sat on the porch again that night, staring at the stars. The house didn't feel so empty anymore. But trouble was already coming. 3 shadows rode through the dark. One had a bandaged shoulder. When dawn came, Thomas stepped outside with his coffee. The air was warm, heavy. He saw them, 3 riders coming slow from the south. His jaw tightened. He stepped inside. Girls, get up. Now. Eva blinked awake. One look at his face and she didn't ask questions. Mira followed. Thomas handed them small revolvers. Ever fired one? Mira shook her head. Eva nodded slightly. Stay behind the porch rail. Don't shoot unless I do. The riders came closer. The injured man spat in the dirt. You got something belongs to us. Thomas didn't blink. Funny. That's what the last fella said. The tallest rider got off his horse. We don't want trouble. Just hand over the girls, and we'll go quiet. Thomas stepped forward, one hand near his belt. You boys are outnumbered and out of your league. The injured man drew first. Thomas ducked and fired. One shot hit the man's leg. The other 2 dived for cover. Mira screamed. Eva raised her gun, hands shaking. When it was over, one man lay groaning in the dirt. The others dropped their weapons. Thomas glared. You're lucky I'm not the hanging type. He went inside, came back with a pouch, and tossed it on the ground. Gold. More than they're worth. Take it and leave. They grabbed it and rode off without looking back. Eva stared. You paid them? Thomas nodded. I don't like blood on my porch. This way it's done. After that day, the ranch grew quiet again, but different. The silence felt warmer, like a wound starting to heal. Mira helped feed the chickens. Eva swept the porch each morning. They were no longer guests. They belonged. One evening, as the sun turned the land gold, Thomas sat on the porch while the girls shelled peas beside him. You ever think we were meant to find this place? Mira asked. Thomas smiled faintly. Don't know about meant to. But I'm glad you did. Eva looked at the sky. I lost everything. My home, my name, my future. But here, with you, with her. I feel like maybe I have a chance again. Thomas nodded. Maybe we all do. It wasn't a love story people expected. It was rough, quiet, born from pain and second chances. 3 broken souls choosing to stay. And that's the thing about the Wild West, it doesn't care who you were, only who you become. So maybe the question isn't how their story ended. Maybe it's this: if you had to start over from nothing, would you fight for your own happy ending? Would you let love find you in the most unexpected place? If this story stirred something in you, tap that like button. Subscribe for more tales of grit, heart, and the human spirit. Now, pour yourself another cup of tea, and tell me, if you were out there on that porch with Thomas Granger, what would you have done differently?